Next, I see Malaysia. Malaysia, please, you have the floor.
Madam President, Malaysia aligned itself with the statement made by the Iraq on behalf of the group of 77 and China. Malaysia commends the Brazilian government for hosting COP30 in the city of Belem and for its leadership in delivering the Mutirau package. This is not a perfect package, but it is one of the Malaysia could take back home. This is implementation COP and means of implementation is still far from reached. Developing countries have increased ambition through their NDC and the implementation requires technology, capacity building and finance. We call upon our partner to also fulfill the obligation in order to keep the 1.5-degree goal alive. Malaysia is happy with the decision to develop a just transition mechanism aimed at enhancing international cooperation, technical assistance, capacity building and knowledge sharing. This mechanism will be an important milestone for developing countries as we work to implement the just transition component of our NDCs. Equitable and inclusive just transition cannot be achieved without strengthened support, accessible tools and shared learning that reflect national circumstances and varying capacity. Malaysia would like to highlight that the roadmap on the transition away from fossil fuel and deforestation should include just transition as one of its elements. Malaysia welcomes the conclusion of the UAE Belem work program and support the adoption of the Belem adoption indicator as a voluntary and flexible tool to help track progress and adaptation. Malaysia called the increase of grant-based finance, technology transfer and capacity building to support developing countries' effort to implement these indicators. Malaysia welcomes the decision to establish the CGE as a permanent body with a 3-year work program adopted in Belem and valuing its vital support in helping parties meet the Paris Agreement reporting obligation. Malaysia strongly urged the provision of adequate resources for the CGE and the Secretariat to undertake the work program adopted in Belem. This is important to ensure developing countries to fulfill the reporting obligation in timely manners and fulfilling requirements under the ETF. Malaysia also commends the adoption of the Belem Gender Action Plan, which represents a significant step forward in strengthening gender-responsive climate action. We welcome its comprehensive approach to enhancing the full, equal and meaningful participation of women and girls across all the dimensions of climate policy and implementation. We further commend the nationally determined approach embedded within the plan, which allows parties to advance gender-related climate action in a manner that is nationally determined and aligned with the national priorities, capacity and development pathway. At the same time, we must ensure that the implementation of the Balanced Gender Action Plan to receive capacity building and technical support to achieve gender-responsive climate outcome. Thusly, congratulations to Turkey and Australia for hosting COP31 in 2026 and Ethiopia for hosting COP32 in 2027. I thank you.
Thank you. I see China has asked for the floor. China, please, you have the floor.
主席女士，大会的这个首席战略官图里奥先生，各位同事，大家好。首先，中方支持伊拉克代表77国集团加中国所做的发言，也支持基础4国 Basic 立场相近发展中国家 LMDC 所做的发言。那么，我代表中方祝贺本次悖论大会取得圆满成功，感谢巴西帕拉州贝伦市的政府和人民为召开本次大会所做的努力和夜以继日的辛勤的工作。我们也知道，现在在台上坐着的巴西的团队的同事，可能已经连续40个小时不眠不休，为了我们能够达成一份团结合作、推动多边进程、推动巴黎协定走向下一个10年的穆提饶成果，为我们尽了最大的努力。我想，这个光荣和掌声属于主席国，属于主席国优秀的团队。同时，我们也感谢公约秘书处各个议题的协调员以及各个代表团为推进谈判进程所做的努力，也感谢所有的会议的支持的人员和我们的翻译为会议保障所做的贡献。我想历史会铭记巴黎协定10周年，我们所有人秉承全球穆提饶精神所做的推动多边进程、推动国际合作的努力。当前全球气候治理 面临着诸多挑战和不确定性，地缘冲突加剧，个别国家逆流而动，特别是单边主义贸易保护措施严重损害各国，特别是发展中国家气候行动的能力。在这样艰难的情况下，贝伦大会达成了这样一揽子平衡成果，对外发出绿色低碳转型大势不可逆转，多边主义不可动摇，国际合作不能削弱，全球气候治理进程依然稳步向前的积极信号，就公约和巴黎协定下一个10年的实施做出了一揽子的积极、平衡、有力度的安排。这样的成果来之不易，弥足珍贵，值得铭记。作为一个负责任的发展中国家，中方将深入践行全球气候治理倡议，与各方一道推动气候变化多边进程。我们将100%落实我们的国家自主贡献，并争取做得更好，构建清洁美丽的世界。让我们再次把掌声给巴西大会主席。
Thank you. Thank you. I see next Indonesia. Indonesia, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Indonesia would like to extend our sincere appreciation to the people and government of Brazil and to the UNFCCC Secretariat for hosting this event. This COP marks a decade of the Paris Agreement with the theme of moving from ambition to action and moving from negotiation to implementation. Indonesia wishes to highlight key agendas in this spirit. Indonesia affirms that a just transition must uphold equity, BDDR, RC, and national circumstances supported by grant-based international assistance. We support the G77 and China call for a UNFCCC just transition mechanism and prevent unilateral measures against developing countries. Indonesia expects Article 6 decision to enhance technical and institutional readiness through international funding, non-market approaches, and accelerate transition of CDM projects. We reaffirm our commitment to the enhanced transparency framework, seeking sustained support in finance, capacity building, and technology. Indonesia is committed in ensuring the global stock takes real implementation and support structured dialogue for actionable and trust-building outcomes. On adaptation, we welcome the GGA outcomes and the UAE Belem work program, emphasizing voluntary, non-punitive implementation without additional burden on developing countries. We stress the need for scale-up adaptation finance, with developed countries tripling their provision by 2030 at least at $120 billion annually. For loss and damage, we appreciate the flexibility and the WIM review for a meaningful outcome. Indonesia calls for reform of international financial architecture, seeking predictable grant-based support and 1.3 trillion annually climate finance by 2035, including the 300 billion for developing nations. Indonesia reaffirms its support for the integration of ocean-related issues to climate negotiation, acknowledging the critical role of marine ecosystem in carbon sequestration, coastal protection, and provision of sustainable livelihood. We stand ready to work constructively with all parties to ensure COP30 outcomes deliver real implementation, mobilizing finance, technology, and capacity building, strengthening resilience, and advancing a just transition that leaves no country or community behind. I thank you.
Thank you. I see Mongolia has asked for the floor. Mongolia, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, President, and Excellencies. So first of all, Mongolia would like to kindly congratulate the government of Brazil for successfully conducting and organizing COP30 city in Belém. And together with the joint effort, we think that we have received a concrete number of decisions that could deliver the positive results within the future. So, first of all, Mongolia aligns with the statements delivered by G77 and China, LLDC, and mountain groups, and reaffirms our shared concerns. As a landlocked country and climate-vulnerable country, one that contributes little to the global emissions yet faces rising and compounding risks. We had hoped to leave Belem with a greater sense of collective ambition and tangible outcomes. We acknowledge that while important steps were taken, the outcomes fell short of urgency demanded by science and experiences by communities on the ground. Despite this, we remain engaged and forward-looking. In 2026, Mongolia will host the UNCCD COP30, where we aim to drive deeper integration between climate change, biodiversity, and land agendas together. Strengthening synergies among Rio III conventions and translating them into meaningful outcome is essential. Mongolia believes that resilience and sustainable development depend on bridging these efforts in a way that reflects the needs of the most affected. In closing, Mongolia reaffirms its support for the Paris Agreement and the multilateral process. We echo the call for a just and inclusive climate response that prioritizes those on the front lines. Let us carry the weight of what was not achieved here as motivation and renew our commitment to stronger collective actions. COP30 result is sending a resounding message to the world that adaptation is a global priority backed by concrete commitments and real resources. Mongolia stands ready to engage constructively toward this shared vision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I see Bolivia. Bolivia, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bolivia wishes to express our deepest appreciation to the COP30 presidency and to Brazil for their leadership and to all parties for their spirit of cooperation demonstrated throughout this conference. My delegation aligns with the statement delivered by Bhutan and Nepal on behalf of the landlocked developing countries. The formal establishment of the LLDC group at this COP marks an important moment for countries whose geographic conditions create specific structural vulnerabilities that have long required greater visibility within the UNFCCC process. For nations without access to the sea, geography directly shapes our climate challenge. Higher transport and logistics costs, dependence on transit routes, constraints on accessing technologies and markets, and increased exposure to droughts, water stress, glacier retreat, and food insecurity. These conditions affect our ability to respond to climate impacts and to implement climate action at the scale and speed required. Bolivia believes the new LLDC platform provides a constructive space to express these realities. It complements with the cooperation with regional groups and other coalitions. Its purpose is simple: to ensure that the Paris Agreement implementation reflects the circumstances of countries facing unique development barriers rooted in geography. We underscore the importance of climate finance that is accessible, predictable, and does not exacerbate debt for countries that are already carrying structural economic constraints. We also highlight the need for strengthened technology cooperation, capacity building, and support for implementing NDCs that in terms of respect of national circumstances and development pathways. Madam Chair, the COP has reminded that implementation must be equitable to be effective. Bolivia welcomes the recognition of the LLDC group and stands ready to work constructively with all parties to strengthen multilateralism and ensure that no landlocked developing country is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. Distinguished delegates, we have now completed the statements by parties. And I now open the floor. Excuse me. So I now open the floor for statements for the observer organizations. And please limit your intervention to 2 minutes. And when a constituency has 2 speakers, the time will be shared between them. I would now like to give the floor to indigenous peoples organizations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Amazon, our home, is the next global oil frontier. Indigenous people are under attack. We face colonial militarization of our territories where states and corporations trade our lives for fossil fuels, transition minerals, and large-scale renewables. We stand in solidarity with our Amazonian relatives and condemn the killing of land defenders. This was mirrored by the heavy militarization of this COP. Even at the indigenous COP, we have been excluded. We recognize the historic inclusion of the rights of indigenous people, including our rights to self-determination, free, prior and informed consent, and the protection of indigenous people's involuntary isolation in the Just Transition Work Program text. While we welcome the inclusion of our rights in the Muchi route, sliding us to the preamble and not the operational text is unacceptable. Here, land rights and traditional knowledge apply exclusively to indigenous peoples. The Muchi route lacks the ambition to live up to its indigenous name. The President's roadmap to phase out fossil fuels and end deforestation must ensure our full participation and credibility and effectiveness. There can be no just transition if our territories remain sacrifice zones. Solidarity with indigenous Pacific relatives who face extreme expense and barriers to attend COPs on the other side of the world. They deserve a Pacific COP. We urge parties to take full advantage of the pre-COP to witness climate impacts on their land and ocean territories and meaningful support and resource Pacific and indigenous COP at 31. Parties, there is no true multilateralism without the real question of indigenous people. Our duty to our future generation requires to put relationship over ego, money, and power. It's time for you to learn to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would like to acknowledge the presence of the COP President who has joined the representatives of the observer organizations. So thank you for your statement. I would like to give the floor now to a representative speaking on behalf of the local governments and municipal authorities. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Yunus Khan from Ikle, and I'm delivering this in my capacity as the LGMA focal point. Let me begin by commending and congratulating the people and governments of the city of Belém, state of Pará and Brazil for their hospitality and professionalism in hosting COP30 in Amazonia, and particularly Ambassador Del Lago for his passion, wisdom, and leadership, as well as countless colleagues in the whole COP30 presidency team. Thousands of local and regional leaders and their networks who came to Brazil for Local Leaders Forum in Rio and COP30 in Belém responded to the call for an implementation COP. The outcomes of the 4th Urbanization and Climate Ministerial elevated our collaboration with national governments. We have felt genuine recognition of the importance of local action, multi-level cooperation and urbanization through ministerials, progress on action agenda, and through numerous parties calling for a mandated dialogue. Cities, states and regions will continue to lead transitioning away from fossil fuels and confronting the realities of climate impacts, but they need support to further scale up their actions. The Muchirao text, in quote, cities and other subnational authorities in multi-level climate action, presents a valuable basis to advance multi-level action and urbanization achievements beyond Belem. We also note increasing references to multi-level action in mitigation work program and adaptation indicators. We warmly welcome the creation of a just transition mechanism in Belem, and we stand ready to contribute to it. Yet, we need to go further than recognition and references. The goal to make this COP of the truth was right one, but the target was not reached fully. Many examples of multi-level NDCs give us hope beyond Belem. We look forward to working with the COP30 presidency and all other nations and partners to implement the outcome of COP30 by putting multi-level action and urbanization at the service of global climate implementation, in particular towards outcome of IPCC's special report on cities in 2027. Obrigado.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of research and independent non-governmental organizations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak at this closing plenary. My name is Marcela, an early career researcher at the Cryosphere Pavilion, and I speak on behalf of Ringo constituency. We would like to thank the Presidency and the people of Belém for their warm hospitality. We appreciate our efforts to create space to have our voice heard during these proceedings. However, we must highlight that observer participation in the second week felt doubtful, as discussions were behind closed doors and draft tests were not available. This hinders observers' ability to meaningfully support this process. As we continue to strengthen the implementation of the Paris Agreement, observers provide a key source of knowledge and practical expertise. This includes advancing our knowledge of climate change, its impacts and how to address them, and establish frameworks and pathways for effective and equitable implementation of diverse work streams at local and national scales. As we continue in this era of implementation, researchers across all disciplines will be key in continuing to discover, develop, enact, and evaluate effective climate solutions. Ringo notes the growing discussions both inside and outside of the negotiations around what is considered best available science. We strongly support the work of the IPCC assessment reports and welcome and encourage efforts to expand the geographic and disciplinary breadth of knowledge assessed across the chapters. Further, we value bringing in experiential knowledge from the indigenous and local communities who are the front line of climate impacts. In closing, we assert the importance of creating an open and inclusive space within and between COPs, where all can participate in meaningful ways. Ringo is committed to fostering open to knowledge resources for and with diverse knowledge communities, and see it as vital to address the challenge we face. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of trade unions, non-governmental organizations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Delegates, my name is Alex Callahan. I'm the National Director of Health, Safety and Environment at the Canadian Labour Congress, a member of the ITUC. Together we represent nearly 200 million workers from 160 countries. Our delegation came to Belém with hope because the labour movement saw COP30 as an opportunity for a positive message in a time of war, conflict, genocide, authoritarianism, corporate greed, and a climate catastrophe taking place before our eyes. And indeed, at COP30, trade unions, social movements, and grassroots organizations received a voice. It wasn't perfect, but the People's Summit and the March were a massive call for justice and an expression of solidarity. That this call for justice and a just transition has not translated into an ambitious agreement is a failure. And workers and a just transition of the workforce have been entirely left out of the Muchirao, which is a profound disappointment. The agreement to develop a Belem action mechanism is a win for workers and their trade unions because for the first time ever, workers and their unions, women and gender groups, communities will have a dedicated place at the UNFCCC to work on our issues and our rights. Trade unions have called for this for many years because protecting and promoting labor rights, organizing workers' participation, and genuine social dialogue to deliver decent work, quality jobs, pensions, health and safety, in concert with universal social protection systems are essential enablers for climate action. The next steps are critical to make the BAM live up to its promise for workers, because workers and our representatives must be part of the governance for the mechanism. If we are not at the table, make no mistake, we are on the menu. The International Labour Organization must be central to the mechanism so that we can implement the ILO guidelines for a just transition. The UNFCCC must also practice what it preaches. Protecting labor rights is broader than what's needed in a just transition. Labor rights must apply to every worker at the COP, from negotiators to the cleaning staff. The fire has shown this very clearly. All workers need their
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to the representative speaking on behalf of the Women and Gender constituency. You have the floor.
Obrigada, Presidente. My name is Ana Cardoso and I delivered this statement on behalf of the Women and Gender constituency. Feminists and LGBTQI+ people across this region and the world are standing firm against extractivism, militarization, and the financing of destruction that threatens both people and the planet. Outside these rooms, millions of people are watching multilateralism fall apart. Trust is disappearing as decisions fail to reflect people's needs or deliver climate finance that is required for adaptation, mitigation, and addressing losses and damages. Yet, the power of our people is alive in the process. The Belém Gender Action Plan that names multidimensional factors shaping climate injustice, recognizes women environmental defenders, and strengthens national level coherence felt impossible. Feminist power delivered it in the halls of Belém. We also join our allies and siblings who fought for over 2 years to bring a compelling proposal to the table that today moves us closer to an ambitious and tangible just transition. We celebrate the mandate for the Belém Action Mechanism. It is a bold step needed to take climate cooperation to a level that delivers for the people. We remind you that we don't come here to fight for words. We fight for our lives and our bodies. When you remove references to human rights, when you fail to deliver on finance, you threaten the possibilities of justice from the solutions we have dreamed together. Women, LGBTQI+, and gender diverse people pay the price. Continued dependence on fossil fuels, rooted in colonial domination and patriarchy, sabotages the commitments made in Paris and Rio, and pushes the world deeper into catastrophe. Justice requires real resources now and a rapid global phase-out of fossil fuels. Our power is not in these hollow decisions, but in the struggle they illuminate, and we will return to these halls to fight for our rights. Demarcação já, Amazônia livre de petróleo. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement, and I loved one sentence that you said that I'm going to use, which is outside of here, multilateralism is falling apart, which means that inside here, multilateralism is not falling apart. Thank you. I want to invite the representative of children and youth non-government organizations.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasmima Sabatina. I'm speaking on behalf of Yango as a children and youth constituency. And the earlier comments on children are extremely harmful and go against the rights of children, degrading the children agency and ability to act honorably. So to continuous comments and relating to the children, youth throughout the session, how can the children and youth expected to act as agent to change addressing the climate crisis as recognize your period decision? position with such disempowering and condescending views. Being raised in multiple crises, we should all applaud children and youth around all of the world efforts, not encouraging one another like less than. It is our shared responsibility to create just, equitable, sustainable future without compromising our most vulnerable marginalized communities. 10 years of Paris Agreement, the world is still not cracked. The International Court of Justice said clearly countries are not meeting their legal duties. The COP is called the COP of truth. So let's be honest. Can we reach the Paris Agreement if we continue like this? We need a system which is Paris, fair, open, allows full participation to all party people in a good faith. It must not allow fossil fuel lobbyists or human rights abusers. Only then can process deliver to real climate justice. Throughout this COP, we can see the countries going backward, arguing over language already agreed before and ignoring gender, diversity, intersectability. These issues are really affected how people experience the climate crisis. We are deeply happy that civil society are the just transition mechanism progress on WIM, but we are seeing that language adaptation finance and refuse the call of commitment to the GGA indicators. Developing countries are financially responsible, instead deliver on them. Although this COP is called Nature COP, but the agricultural farmers are mostly ignored. No proper recognition, children and youth safe carbon budget.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to representatives speaking on behalf of business and industry non-governmental organizations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the global business community, we thank the COP30 presidency and the volunteers and people of Belem for their tremendous efforts in hosting this Amazon COP. We also commend the parties for their tireless work. Today sends a signal of united support of the Paris Agreement. Yet the outcomes still fall short of the global economy require. The private sector has not waited for permission to act. We have charged ahead with both the will and ability to deliver. But without clear direction from governments, our best efforts risk being constrained. Parties, we are at a turning point and we must do better across the core areas that matter most. First, adaptation is no longer a choice, it is an imperative. Yet, the outcome adopted does not provide a credible pathway that also unlocks private capital and innovation to deliver real resilience on the ground. Second, on mitigation, in Dubai you sent a clear signal. Here in Belem, however, we face greatest disappointment. The Global Accelerator, the Mission to 1.5, and voluntary roadmaps are welcome steps that can accelerate the global energy transition. But they risk remain intentions unless they lead to robust national plans and milestones and are anchored in clear, credible paths on finance and investment. Let us be clear, decisions adopted here will not deliver results without a step change on finance. We need more than roundtables and programs. We need a concrete action plan that integrates the core elements of the Baku to Belem roadmap and channels capital into real-world projects at scale. Finally, international cooperation must remain the cornerstone. In Belem, we saw severe divisions, but also recognition of the role of open, fair trade in shared prosperity. We hope for a genuine, inclusive dialogue to move to collaborative action marked by real solutions. It is time now to focus on what we must build together towards COP31 and beyond. Going forward, we must act with urgency, courage and pragmatism, grounding our choices in what truly works for
Thank you. I give the floor to representatives of environmental NGOs.
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of ENGO DCJ, I am from Mexico, where our peoples have suffered expansion of ecocide, imperialism, and organized crime. This cup of truth has shown once again that this is not enough, not inside these walls, and not within this extractive, decaying economic system. Despite fossil fuel lobbyists, global north blocking tactics, scapegoats, and false solutions, COP30 has delivered some necessary advances on the just transition mechanism. We reject any attempts to financialize our territories through schemes like TFFF and assert the urgent need for public, ground-based climate finance. This COP showed that the real direction of climate action comes from people-led, community-rooted solutions. We will continue to fight inside the convention, but it is the power of the peoples and movements that will deliver the transformation that is needed. Viva lo común y la lucha sigue.
Thank you very much, Chair. I speak on behalf of the Climate Action Network. Chair, we came to COP30 with the scars of a world where suffering and pain is all around us, with concern on the ability of this COP to respond to our demands of justice for people and communities suffering the climate crisis. On most of those demands, finance, adaptation, the energy transition, this COP has not delivered. But Chair, let me share our pride that in the land of Chico Mendes, in the continent of Berta Cáceres and Julia Chunil, a promise has been made that social and economic justice and climate action will no longer be separated. We made huge progress mechanism for just transition, our BAM. This is the result of a hard-fought struggle by workers, communities and civil society. Chair, we all deserve dignity and happiness. Solid climate action with just transition at the heart is the way to get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your statements. Distinguished delegates, colleagues, this brings us to the end of this session. Before we close, some of you may have the patience to listen to my words. They're giving me more than 2 minutes, but I would also take a moment to thank our interpreters for their wonderful work and continuous support. My first words are of gratitude. Gratitude to the people of Belém who welcomed us. Yeah, they welcomed us in this unique city for the Cup of Truth, with their truth and embracing us at every moment. My gratitude obviously goes to President Lula, who, for his trust, his support throughout this process. I am sure there was never a president as committed as him to the success of a COP. To you personally, my dear Simon, and to the Secretariat for your professionalism, dedication and friendship. It is a pleasure to work with you, and we still have 11 months together, and we're going to do lots of things together. Thank you. And obviously, Minister Marina Silva, that came back, I just see her. And you have just mentioned Chico Mendes. Do you think this is it's an incredible country. The companion, the person that worked and fought with Chico Mendes is the Minister of the Environment of Brazil. What a country. So I have to thank obviously the team of the Brazilian government, hundreds of employees, volunteers, and that kept this venue running and safe, and to all those that protected us when we needed. And I'm deeply grateful to the Brazilian team that has poured so much heart into everything they've done in the preparation of this COP, and I hope in the preparation of the 11 months that we have ahead with talent and generosity. I cannot mention all their names, but there are some names that obviously I cannot avoid. First of all, Anatoni, the incredible. And in the last 2 years, because Anatoni is also, I met through Minister Marina, and for 2 years, Anatoni, Lilian Chagas, and Tulio Andrade, we've been working together non-stop. And through their names, I thank the whole wonderful team that obviously I would not have been able to do much without them, and they are incredible. But anyway, I want also to thank obviously the ministries and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that symbolized here by Mauricio Lírio, that I thank you and all the team of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Well, now that I'm recovering, the representatives from civil society. Thank you for driving us in the right direction, and always ask for more. You need to ask for more. The world expects you to ask for more, and me too. So be always in my back and remind me that I'm not doing what I should do in the next 11 months, please. So, obviously, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the scientists that I met, so many amazing people during this year. Subnational governments, local and traditional communities, indigenous people, women, youth, all of you that have been so incredible. And obviously the private sector that is contributing and can contribute infinitely more, and this was also another source of excitement during this preparation. But you are, and all of you were inspiration for believing in our COP. You were really believing in this COP. And if we didn't deliver everything, I promise you that we delivered more than we imagine. We need a few days to read all these things, but I think that we have some amazing mandates. To the media, I thank so much the journalists that are surrounding me. My children are perplexed that you find me interesting, so, but really wonderful. And all the delegates that have been partners in this COP. I never thought, yesterday we were inside the room for 17 hours and nobody fought with anybody. It was incredible. It was a bit slow, but we delivered. My friends, at this moment that we celebrate the 10 years of the Paris Agreement and the 33 years since I discovered this agenda working in the Rio Summit, in the organization of the Rio Summit. It's so good to see that multilateralism is alive and that it can really deliver to people. 2 weeks ago, we had the Belém Climate Summit that President Lula invited several world leaders, and it was fantastic because we were dealing with the climate issue outside of the rigid and very rules-based structure of the Convention and the Paris Accord. Then we have this, under this amazing structure that we built in all these years and that delivers so much. And that's what inspired us, is that when we started to prepare COP30, we saw how many things we could already do with what had already been approved. That's the inspiration for us to think that all these decisions that we have developed during all those years, they are alive and they allow us to do much more than just think of the next COP and what we're going to approve in the next COP. Let's use what we achieve in each COP, and we're going to do so much more than people think of. We promised a different COP, and I think it was definitely one like no other. It is not an event, it is a process. It took a year for us to go through the many structures that we created. First, we had the circles. We created the circle of former COP presidents presided by Laurent Fabius. Then we had the circle of peoples headed by Minister Guajajara. Then we had the circle of finance ministers headed by Minister Haddad, and we had the circle that has the beautiful name of the Global Ethical Stocktake, that even if it was co-presided by President Lula and Secretary General Guterres, the soul of the Global Ethical Stocktake has always been Minister Marina Silva. And we nominated 30 special envoys on sectors and regions. They did an amazing job. I cannot thank them enough. And they truly not only made this COP inclusive, but they went little by little solving all the doubts that their sectors had about the COP, how we could work with agriculture, how we could work with all the kinds of indigenous people, business, the business in the Amazon. I mean, it was incredible, and obviously many of the civil society, oceans, etc. So, and they taught us so much during this preparation. We have achieved, I think, meaningful results to our people here at COP. And I have to thank also Mukhtar Babayev, the president of COP29, with whom I developed during this year this roadmap, which proposes concrete pathways to achieve $1.3 trillion in climate finance by 2035. We decided that we're going to continue that work. This is another thing we're going to do, and we're going to keep alive and better and better the information we have about finance. We need to understand better finance in this process, in this regime, to be able to really get what we need. It was a COP of implementation, definitely, because we knew that we have so much that we could already do. And so I cannot say how much excited I was with the Global Climate Action Agenda and its vital role at this COP. It brought the most fantastic people to Belém. And I have to thank the Climate High-Level Champion, Dan Yoshpi, and also Nigar Arpadarai for having given life, working hand in hand together with Bruna, that is absolutely fabulous. We brought back some voluntary initiatives that had been somehow forgotten. We gave more energy to some of the initiatives that were still alive, and we created many others that we have to make stronger and stronger in the months ahead. So we want to have a structured 5-year vision of the Global Climate Action Agenda for implementation. We have to recognize that the parties and the non-party stakeholders who welcome this vision, they did an amazing job, and I'm going to read so many interesting documents now that I hope I'll have a little more time. All this showing also mutirão in that dimension, and it is the word that, by the way, was an idea of Túlio to create the mutirão. He has so many ideas, we get exhausted. Yeah. But the mutirão succeeded to reflect what was the spirit of our COP, a real mobilization against climate change, and that organized and stimulated thousands of autonomous activities from local communities, children, youth, oceans, waste, health, information, cities. It is really extraordinary. And that's why I have to thank very much also Marcelo Oliveira, our amazing youth champion, that was... So, it is difficult to evaluate an enormous conference like this the day it ends. Most of you don't know because everybody here is younger than me. But when the Earth Summit in 1992, the famous Rio UN Conference on Environment and Development, that gave birth to this convention, gave birth to the Biodiversity Convention and started the mandate for the desertification. We had the Agenda 21. We did so many things in Rio 92. And believe it or not, for many months, the conference was considered disappointing. Can you imagine? Today, who believes that that was considered disappointing? So, when President Lula invited me to be president of this COP, I embraced the challenge, knowing that because I had experienced that. So it was at the same time lots of excitement and humility, because we know that we have to do our best and not necessarily be recognized, and certainly not be recognized the day that the COP ends. But just a few words about the fact that it was going to be an empty COP. We had 195 countries, more than 42,000 delegates and observers that came here, and the strongest ever participation of indigenous peoples. I know you wanted more, but it was the strongest ever, and I hope that the next COPs will continue to be the strongest ever after this one. The negotiations, we delivered, I think, a very interesting package, and we are going to pick and choose from time to time what was better, what was more interesting. But I have in my heart a very special part for what we achieved with adaptation, what we achieved with the Just Transition Mechanism and the Gender Action Plan. These are things that, as Brazilians, we believed so much, and we want to stress how much we wanted this. And then we're going to explain many things that were adopted. I think that the Mutirão decision, that was another miracle that was built by Túlio, is revealing itself. I started this morning receiving messages from friends of mine saying, well, that was really not what we wanted. And little by little they're sending me, oh, now we're reading it a little more, so it is much better. Oh, it's almost good. You know, at some moment we're gonna, I think that this is going to be appropriately revelation. We already said this morning, you were here, that we are going to have this roadmap on fossil fuels. We're going to have a roadmap on deforestation. I think this is going to be really an extraordinary contribution of the Brazilian presidency. I want to thank you all for trusting me and trusting all our team, trusting Brazil to organize this event in the Amazon, trusting how we would manage the emergencies and even literally the emergencies and setbacks. But I want you to trust us even more in the 11 months ahead, in which I intend to continue to use the the most important weapons that we used in our diplomacy, which is transparency, and I'm very proud that what was achieved in the way that it was achieved. So for all foreigners, I invite you to carry the spirit of Belém and the Multidão home, keep it alive, and I hope that one day we will remember that this COP maybe changed us in a very significant way, and we will all be very proud of it. So thank you very much. I forgot the last sentence. By the way, it's 3 sentences. I now declare the 30th session of the COP closed. The 20th session of the CMP closed. And the 7th session of the CMA closed.